Hello students, how are you? I hope you all are fine. Welcome back to my lecture. Grade 12, Chapter 5, topic Principle of Inheritance and Variations. Okay, I think my previous lecture is clear to you. So today we will discuss next chapter. Okay, in this chapter, Principle of Inheritance and Variations, we talks about genetics, the inheritance of traits, mutation, gene flow, and others in the living organism. Genetics is essential in modern biology. It provides an insight into what and who we are. According to modern theory of the genes, offspring inherits gene from the parents. That you know. So what you will learn in this chapter, you understand the thing that make you unique. The reason for you to look like your family member, and also why some disease run in your family. In this chapter, we talks about the different environmental factors that interact with gene and cause certain traits. Okay. So first is the genetics. Genetics is basically in which organism reproduce. What do you mean by organism reproduce? The formation of offspring of a same kind. Okay. And the resulting of the offspring most often do not totally resemble the parent because of the sexual reproductions. Variation will occur now. And what is genetics? It is the branch of the biology that deals with the inheritance and variation. Now what is inheritance? Inheritance is the process by which characters are passed on from parents to progeny or offspring. What is variation? It is a degree by which progeny differ from their parents. So what you notice in this picture? Obviously variations, है ना? Inheritance is there, variations is there. Okay. So let's talk about history. Human knew before 8000 to 1000 BC the variation is due to sexual reproduction. That you know what is sexual reproduction? That exploited variation that is present in the wild plant and animals to selectively breed and select organism with a desirable character, with interested character. Okay. Artificial selection and domestications of the wild cow and Sahiwal cow in the Punjab. Okay. So next is the now we'll discuss some terms that we will use in this chapter. First is genetics that I told you. It is a branch of life science that deals with the study of heredity and variation. What is heredity? It is the transmission of character from parents to offspring, parents to their progeny. Variation, it is a difference among the offspring with their parents. Hereditary variation is these are the genetically or inheritable. Okay. Now last is the environmental variation. These are acquired and non-inheritable. That is acquired by an organism after their birth. That will not transfer from parents to offspring. Okay. So G.J. Mendel, that is also known as father of genetics. Okay. Known as father of modern genetics. Gregor Mendel or G.J. Mendel developed the principle of heredity while he was studying 7 pairs of inherited characteristics in the pea plant. Mendel chose pea plant, that I will explain in this chapter why he chose pea plant. Although the significance of his work was not recognized during his lifetime, it has become the basis for the present day field of genetics. Mendel approach, he conducted hybridizations that include artificial pollination and cross pollination. Experiment for 7 years from 1856 to 1863 and proposed law of inheritance that we will discuss in this chapter. And he applied statistical analysis and mathematical logic for the biological problems. Okay, and large sampling size that will create greater creativity to the data. And in his experiment, true breeding pea lines are there, that is continuous self-pollination, because of continuous self-pollination. Confirmation of inference from experiment on successive generation of test plant that prove general rules of inheritance. And Mendel investigate two opposite traits, tall and dwarf, yellow and green seeds. So in this picture, there are 7 pair of contrasting character that is selected by the Mendel for his experiment. He selected the character that has two opposing traits. He conducted these hybridization experiment on 14 true breeding pea plant varieties. In this picture, you see dominant traits and recessive traits are there. I will tell you what is dominant and recessive. Okay, first character is the height. On the basis of the height, dominant is tall, recessive is dwarf or short. Seed shape, round is dominant and wrinkle is recessive. In the seed color, yellow is dominant and green is recessive. In seed coat color, in which green is dominant and white is recessive. Pod shape, full and flat. In pod color, green and yellow. And flower position, axial and terminals. Okay. So, phenotype is the external appearance of an organism due to the influence of gene and environmental factor. Genotype, that is genetic constitution of an individual which is responsible for the phenotype. Now, what is phenotypic ratio? The correct proportion of phenotype in a population. I told you what is phenotype. Genotypic ratio, that is the correct proportion of the genotype in the population. Now, what is homozygous and heterozygous? Homozygous consists the individual which having identical gene in an allelic pair for a character. Example, capital T, small t, small t. Heterozygous, the individual which having unidentical gene in the allelic pair. For example, capital T and small t. Now, dominant gene, the gene that express his character in the heterozygous condition also. But recessive, the genes that fail to express his character in the heterozygous condition. Only in the homozygous condition, recessive will show his character. Hybrid, the progeny obtained by crossing two parents that differ in the character. Backcross, the cross between F1 hybrid and one of its parent. F1 is the filial generation that I will tell you. Test cross, the cross between hybrid and its homozygous recessive parent. It is used to identify the genotype of the hybrid. Now, why Mendel selected pea plant? First is the pure varieties are available of the pea plant. Second, pea plant are easy to cultivate. Third, the life cycle of pea plant are only few months, so that the result can be got easily or early. And the contrasting traits are also there. Flowers of the pea plant are bisexual and normally self-pollinated. Next, that flower can be cross-pollinated only manually. And hybrids are the fertile. Okay. So these are the some point on the basis of that he selected pea plant. Okay. Next is the inheritance of one gene. That means transfer of one gene. Inheritance of one gene that can be explained by the monohybrid cross. Monohybrid cross is that cross between the two parents differing in one pair of the contrasting character. That is called monohybrid cross. Mendel crossed tall and dwarf pea plant, tall and short pea plant, and he collected seeds and grew to generate first hybrid generation or filial generation or F1 generation. In the F1 plant, he found all plants are tall, none were dwarf or short. For other traits also, F1 generation resembled only one parent and the trait of other parents were not shown. Self-pollinated F1 plant which gives filial F2 generation or filial 2 generation. In F2 generation, 1/4 were dwarf, 3/4 tall, which is identical to the parent. F1 generation, one parent trait shown and F2 both parents are shown. Okay. So in this picture, you can see parental generation are there, pure line of the parents are there, capital T, small t. After the segregations, that will form only one T, capital and one small. And after the mating, that will form F1 generation which include capital T and capital T small t. Okay, again the gamete will form and after the test cross, the F2 generation will come. F2 generation carry capital T, capital T small t, capital T small t, small t. So capital T and small t, these are the homozygous trait. Okay, capital T is the dominant trait and small t is the recessive trait. And these two are the capital T small t, these are the heterozygous trait or you can say hybrid plant. So genotype ratio is 1:2:1 and phenotype is 3:1. Mendel proposed something is stably that being passed to the next generation through the gamete. These are factors and later these factors are known as the genes. Genes or factor, these are the unit of inheritance which contain the information which is required to express a particular trait. Genes which code for pair of the contrasting trait, these are called alleles. These are present in the pair. Alphabetically symbols are used, capital T for the tall and small t for the dwarf. Plant pair of the alleles for the height. These are the capital T, small t and small t. Mendel proposed true breeding tall and dwarf plant. These are the identical or you can say homozygous alleles. Pair of the capital T or small t genotypes. Descriptive terms tall or the dwarf that consists phenotype. And Mendel's found phenotype of the heterozygous, that is capital T or small t, of F1 generation were same as parent with capital T and proposed in a pair of the dissimilar factors, one dominant, the other and hence called dominant and second is a recessive. Okay, so rest part we will discuss in the next lecture. Till then, stay at home, stay safe, stay blessed, be happy and thank you.